What he just said has Habs fans pumped up as Kent Hughes reveals the truth around the trade deadline, reveals that he was speaking to multiple teams about some big name players and prospects and how the summer is going to be a big time for Montreal. But not just that, Jesse, he also revealed why he chose not to move the UFAs, and honestly, it's a really good reason. We got to talk about everything Kent Hughes had to say in his press conference, but it's not just that. We have some amazing news, and what's probably the best news of the day: Kaiden Guhle is officially back skating after the quad laceration, and Kent Hughes also revealed a timeline on that. We are pumped to get into all this in this jam-packed episode of Habs Digest. We're just going to dive straight into Guhle, Jesse. Here's the picture. It's actually a video. You can go find it on Twitter or wherever you want to find it yourself. Eric Engels and multiple other people tweeted this out. Kaiden Guhle was skating in Brossard this morning while the Habs are on this West Coast road trip. Just played Edmonton, played Calgary Saturday night. This is unreal, and in his post-trade deadline presser, Kent Hughes said that Guhle may return this season. They're unsure. If the Habs are out of the playoff picture, they're not going to rush him back. But this is unbelievable to hear, Jesse. Just to hear that Kaiden Guhle is finally, potentially ready to be back this season. This is like superhuman stuff to me.
After that horrific injury, this is amazing. And Josh, he was looking good, like real good out there, which is giving me faith that he could potentially be a huge boost to this team during that final stretch. Just the fact that he's on the ice is a morale boost of its own for this team right now. And you really have to feel like it's just kind of like what we need at the right time for, maybe obviously if we get into those playoffs, it's going to be really tight. And obviously Kaiden Guhle is going to be that big boost because our decor is playing well right now, but it's going to help a lot with Kaiden Guhle. Like we see Alex Carey's numbers were really good before the Kaiden Guhle injury. Now they've taken a little bit of a step back. He's playing a little bit more out of pocket, a little bit too much than probably he should be in his role. So, I mean, having Kaiden Guhle come back to this very young decor who has admirably stepped up in his absence. We're thinking of obviously Struble, Xhekaj, etc. This is going to be a huge boost. But Josh, I have a question for you. It's on the minds of a lot of Habs fans right now. Is like, should Kaiden Guhle, should he change his play style to maybe not get injured as much? Like, I'm of the opinion, he's going to mature. He's going to get better. I don't want him to change his play style, but I think a part of being an athlete is really knowing when to pick your spots sometimes and when you're really going to go full tilt and maybe when to hold back as well. As a younger player, that can sometimes be hard to realize, but I think is really important in game management, your energy, and obviously for injuries as well. What's your thoughts on this?
My thought is, I think Kaiden Guhle looks amazing whenever he's out on the ice. I wouldn't want him to have any major changes, but again, this injury was a bit of a freak one, but he's had injuries as well during his career that are sort of, in relation a bit to his play style, but I would say let him play the way he wants to play, as long as management and the training staff say, look, hey, we don't think it's directly this contributing to it, but I also see the merit to it, right? When you have a couple injuries to a guy, one of your most promising young defensemen, you want to protect him at all costs. So we're going to see what the Habs can do on that front. But hey, you know what? Just seeing him skating today has us so happy. Let us know your thoughts down below on Kaiden Guhle. This is unbelievable to see. But now, Jesse, we got to move on to the trade deadline today. Now, a lot of Habs fans were, up and down. Some people very angry, some people very happy. Look, Kent Hughes did nothing, literally nothing, no moves at all. Now, that's not to say that there can't be AHL moves, because that can still happen. There's another week to make moves on that front, which is something we predicted. Bit surprised it didn't happen today. But we got to dive into some of the quotes, because a lot of people were surprised Kent Hughes did not sell off David Savard or Yoel Armia, especially in this crazy seller's market where guys like Jake Wallman is getting a first at his full contract, right? A guy like Anthony Beauvillier is fetching a second. But Kent Hughes had some very interesting quotes, and I'm going to flash them up on the screen. First thing here, he said, we thought we'd do the same as in previous years and trade players, but the boys won 5 games in a row. We rewarded the players for their efforts. And Jesse, we heard this earlier this season. Kent Hughes said the same thing. Hey, if we're in the mix, we're going to reward our boys for playing well. And that's exactly what he did at this deadline. And I actually have a further quote about something he said to Nick Suzuki. He said, I had a chat with Nick. I told him not to ask me to stand still if the team didn't deliver. I told him it was on his shoulders, and he responded with panache. Suzuki came out, Jesse. He's been one of the NHL's best players since the break, helping Montreal get these 11 points in their last 6 games. What do you think about Kent Hughes' message to the team saying, look, you succeed, we're rewarding you? I think that speaks to the team culture, but also speaks to other people who maybe want to see Montreal as a destination in the future.
And when you're building relationships, it's really important to stay true to your word. Again, if this team isn't doing what they're doing, if Nick Suzuki isn't doing what he's doing, 13 points over the last 5 games, then for sure this trade deadline is a lot different. But again, as we talked about kind of leading up to it, it's like, depending on those returns for Armia or Savard, with us being so much in the mix, it's like, is it really worth it to weaken this team at this point in time? You have to feel like, we're not hurting ourselves long term, but we're also keeping a lot of players that are going to really help us down the stretch here, which I think is really important. Like, to be honest, I'm okay with this. Absolutely, because the future is looking bright for this team, but also the present, where we see a lot of teams today where they're gambling their future to kind of have their present, where we kind of have both of those. We have the best of both worlds right now. So I really love that Kent Hughes is rewarding this team.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, we know Ottawa went out, made some big moves. They were the team that landed that Dylan Cousins sweepstakes, and we have teams like, Boston's now exploding everything, so that's one less team Montreal has to worry about. Detroit didn't do a whole lot, but at the top of the East, Toronto made some big splashes. Florida with the shocker at the buzzer landing Brad Marchand, and the Mikko Rantanen going out west to Dallas. It's been insane, this trade deadline. But hey, Kent Hughes is seemingly of the opinion, and it makes sense. Like, look, we're probably not going to compete for a Stanley Cup this year. It's always possible, but this team right now doesn't need to mortgage any of the future. And if Montreal were to go out today, Jesse, and pay the prices that was necessary for a good star player to add to this lineup, we know he wasn't going for a rental. He would only want something to help long term. But at this deadline, the price would have been a lot higher than it would be come this offseason. So at the end of the day, great decision by Kent Hughes to stand pat. And I think Armia and Savard, look, they said they're amazing people as well. That's part of the reason they stuck around. But there is more to it than that, because it wasn't just, hey, that's it. It's just about the culture. Kent was active. Like, I got to show you guys what he had to say as well. He said, I called some teams about players. I won't mention names because they're very good players and prospects. These are things we'll be looking at more this summer, and this was the most intriguing part to me, Jesse. Now, we did hear the rumors that Kent Hughes was in on Dylan Cousins. He was talking to Buffalo, seeing if they could work something out, ended up falling through. There were also rumors today about JJ Peterka leaving Buffalo for New York. That ended up being not true. We did also hear some little rumors here and there that maybe Montreal could be in on someone like Jordan Kyrou, whose name was getting floated around. There were so many names, and to hear Kent Hughes say something like this, hey, who knows if he was in on someone like a Rantanen? Probably not, but Toronto was, right? There's so many big names out there. To hear him saying, look, I'm checking in on everything. This summer's the time for it. This has me unbelievably excited to see what's coming next. And he also said, look, they had long negotiations, talks with the coaches because they're competitive and want to win too. This team is in a position to make some big moves coming very soon. Didn't happen this deadline, but that doesn't mean Kent is going to stand pat forever.
And all the moves that he's doing right now in those conversations are really just furthering and pushing that needle further for this summer when we're really looking to make those big acquisitions. For Ottawa, they're making that trade because they already have a risky contract. So maybe trading for somebody like a Cousins where it's another risky, that's a kind of a lateral move there in a lot of ways, where they were in a position where their GM kind of put them in a corner where really they needed to make a move like that. We are not in a situation like that where we need to do something, to be honest, a little bit desperate, in my opinion, a move like that. Again, by proper planning ahead of time that this management is providing.
Yeah, like that's exactly right. Like Josh Norris for Dylan Cousins, it felt like a bit of a gamble for gamble, right? That was a bit of a weird trade. And again, like Montreal doesn't need to rush for anything right now. Would it have been nice to add to this draft pick stockpile? Maybe, but again, like at the end of the day, you're pushing for a playoff spot. The team looks good. The teams around you, some of them are blowing up. Montreal's in a great opportunity to keep going. Yoel Armia stays in the penalty kill. David Savard staying on the back end, Jesse. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming out. We have some AHL news as well. We heard Reinbacher today talking about how he's excited to play with Hudson. Kent Hughes gave some updates on who can play in the playoffs for Laval as Owen Beck was papered down there today. I know we'll talk about that maybe in another video, Jesse, but to cap this all off, do you think you agree with this B grade TSN gave Montreal for the trade deadline? Would you give higher or lower? I think I'm pretty much right there with B. They didn't need to do anything. They didn't go do anything. The team looks good. The future looks great. Nothing too super amazing, but I'm happy with it.
Yeah, hard to give a grade when you're not kind of bringing anybody in. I would say signing Jake Evans, if we want to call that, that's a solid bit of work, especially on that. If we're kind of grading that, that's an A, and basically we can only judge them on what they have done really so far. But I think standing pat, given that this team has showed, the propensity to go for a run here, I love that it's all hands on deck. That basically he's saying, okay, boys, you've shown me that you guys can play, that it matters to you, and now it's kind of proving it down the stretch. I think that that's going to matter for this young team.
I'm excited. Look, I'm still excited. I wish we maybe saw a trade, but that's just the little bit inside me that wants to see action. But let us know what you guys think. Is it a B grade? Can you even give it a grade? What do you think about Kent Hughes' comments? Let us know down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.